Well, love is in the air. It's not because of Valentine's Day. It's because Champions League is back. Leg one of the round of 16 of the Champions League getting underway on Tuesday. Golden Goal decided to move up a couple of days to cover it. Be pretty dumb not to cover the biggest tournament in the soccer world outside of the World Cup. So, yeah, let's do it. Martino Puccio of The Athletic is here, State of the Play Pod co-host as well. Martino, we have some interesting draws. They have really flipped in terms of who we thought might be favored, but regardless, some great games on tap for the next 2 days.
Yeah, absolutely. We get the big names right away. We got some luck, and some of the stars are actually going to be back, even though we thought they would be missing these first legs. So just to have it back is tremendous. I was kind of getting a little bored of club football for a bit. I needed some European competition, and yeah, we basically have everything that we need.
That's fair. That's fair. Let's take a look at last week of what we did real quick. We're starting to develop a trend here where we do 3 games every week. One game will do really well usually, one game will do pretty well, and the other game will like miss on everything. This
Yeah.
week we had 2 really good games and then we missed on everything else. So for Arsenal, Brentford got the under 3.5 and both teams to score. Um, I I didn't take the bet, but I will say at the very end I said I'm not confident in the Arsenal money line because I can see it being 1-1. Here we are, crowning myself, humble brag. And then Monaco PSG got the Monaco money line, got the over 2.5, got the both teams to score. We both missed though our football x football parlay. You had Arsenal money line and Chiefs. You got the Chiefs part. I had Eagles money line and both teams to score in Man United. Don't need to talk about if I hit one of those, but yeah, that Man United Leeds game we flopped a little bit on.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Leeds couldn't finish. New story of the day, basically. Just that type of team that creates chances, and that's why they're in this relegation spot too. Kudos to Man United; those goals came later on in the game, so we were even looking at 0-0 at one point. But again, United came through with it. It's just frustrating when it's really just one goal away from hitting everything, and that's on the Leeds side of things. Again, process. There was chances created, expected goals. If you guys love that kind of stuff, they were right around there, and it's okay. Like that's the nature of the sport, and we'll move on from it. And definitely something that we'll not see for a very long time is the back to back in the league with Man U and Leeds. So again, we didn't really have much history in our lifetime, literally,
Mm-hmm.
to go off of this. So again, unfortunate, but Jesse Marsh looks like he's getting a new job potentially in the Prem, by the way. So that's been the rumor on the street. Just a side note.
Yeah, it's just the rumor mill that just keeps on spinning. That's like the NFL right there. You just recycle coaches left and right. They will end up somewhere, and you might see a face in like 6 different places in a year. But I digress. Let's hop right into game number one. It's PSG. It's Bayern Munich. We love talking about games that have plenty of clarity. Always say wait until the lineups come out and see what you got there. This game has as many question marks as any other game that we are going to be talking about. The big stars have made the squad. Mbappe is there, Hakimi is there, Messi is there. However, their status for this game is completely up in the air. All that being said, what are you looking at before we get those official lineups?
Yeah, so this is the difficult thing. I think probably both teams to score, yes, is always something on the table with PSG. And again, say we're assuming that it's not a full 90 minutes for the players that we mentioned. I mean, Hakimi came off the bench, so my presumption is that he'll start. As far as Mbappe and Messi go, we don't know. But again, why do you bring these guys up to the squad if they're not able to play at this point? So I do
Yeah.
think there's minutes for them. They're that type. They're those types of players. We saw that result over the weekend against Monaco. This is just not a good defense. It's not up to par of the standard. Again, it's at home for PSG. I do like the Bayern team total over 1.5. There's odds of plus money at over 3.5 goals in total for the entire match. That's on BetMGM and a couple other spots. So you could look to there because there's definitely some stuff. And again, if you fall in line with my logic here of Mbappe is going to get minutes, Messi is going to get minutes, I think one of them is going to start. And especially I think Hakimi will. That's just added pressure in general for Bayern's defense. I think they're going to create something out of that in PSG. We know away goals don't matter traditionally. If you're back in the Champions League betting because of the World Cup, the rules have changed. So away goals mean nothing. This was also a thing last year, but just to reiterate that. So don't think PSG is completely out of the tie. But for me, Bayern's pressure, they've been so much better in the league as of late instead of when we were seeing them draw all those matches. They're capable of bringing that type of press with a Jamal Musiala. 2 goals with this type of PSG defense. I mean, it's nothing special. And again, preface by saying there's so many devil's advocates ways you could play this that it could hit is that even if Mbappe or Messi are not there for 90 minutes, that actually allows Bayern to just press even more. Because what are you actually scared of if Mbappe isn't in there? I respect Neymar. I respect some of the other players on PSG, but this is also Bayern. They were arguably the best team in the group stage in this competition in the fall. So it's not like something we could brush back on. And PSG, again, finishing second in their group. This is why they're here. This is why they never win this competition, is because whenever they're asked to step up in a match like this, they tend not to, or it's one guy or one guy's getting hurt. There's always the same type of storylines. So for me, I really don't love taking PSG straight up in this. It's just really a goal show for me. And it, again, depends on the lineups.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same boat there. I like backing Bayern there, but again, just the so many question marks. You would imagine that if you had to put money on either Mbappe or Messi to play, it would probably be more Messi. The rumor was that he was going to be ready to go for this game. Mbappe was kind of a surprise add to the squad, but he's practiced a couple times since they last played against Monaco, but still his official status is doubtful. But again, you never know leading up to soccer games. Things can just change so quickly, and there's a lot of deception, obviously, with different lineups. If I can only pick one bet here, it's Bayern Munich or the tie at minus 186. You know, I like those double chances. You know, I like to cover myself for that because, like you mentioned, it's PSG has enough talent that they can get on the scoreboard. Um, I don't know that I trust it enough. Again, this is just to kind of cover myself. If you want to just take Bayern to win, you can get that. And that is more like that is likely to happen. I mean, if you're going to pick a straight up winner here, it's going to be
Yeah.
Bayern. But I
Yeah.
like to cover myself a little bit with that tie on these possibilities as well. Again, with so many question marks. Couple
Yeah.
other things I like: both teams to score at minus 200. The over 3.5 is at plus 130. It's risky, and again, there are 2 legs here, so you don't empty out the gas tank
Yeah.
as always here. But Bayern has been a lot better recently. The last time we talked about them, they had were going for their 3rd straight tie, but they have turned things around since. If you want to go with the informed team, obviously you go Bayern's way. But again, just a couple things like you mentioned, just a lot of question marks and the possibility that it's always there. It is PSG. If one of them plays, you don't know the status of them
Yeah.
necessarily. Maybe they were saving themselves and kind of just doing a little bit of smoke screens for Monaco, and next thing you know, Messi is full health, ready to go. He's scoring 2 goals. So it's just
Yeah.
a little more
Yeah.
cautious.
It's definitely up in the air, and I would like to say in part of with the futures here as well. These are the second and third favorites for this tournament.
Hmm.
They're up there again with looking at that, with looking at who's advancing to the next round. Again, if you like Bayern, you probably want to take them at that 175 number to advance to the next round. And again, even with the overall odds for the competitions, we don't know what this Premier League ruling will be for Manchester City. How much does that affect them? They also got João Cancelo. Again, City is far and away the favorite in this competition, but it's going to change significantly after this matchup. And there's a specific reason why. It's because they're 2-3 in this. That gets swayed heavily. So again, what we did in the World Cup is also saying, if you believe somebody is going deeper in this tournament, you have to know when to bet them. It's not about if they will or if they won't. It's not a black and white type of bet. It's one that you're going to have to project. And again, if PSG look great at home as well, they were in great position last year against Real Madrid. A little bit different, obviously, as we know what happened there. But at the same time, you really have to think this out because PSG is not going to be. They could still be plus money depending on how much they were to win by in this tie. But then again, they go into Germany. And if you love your bet with Bayern or a tie, that also leans towards Bayern advancing as well. And they're home for the second leg. And regardless of away goals, atmosphere matters. And that's the theme we're going to be playing on, because it does. There's historical facts to back up teams not playing well away. And I think we're going to see a repeat of that. But again, there's just so much to get to because it is the best annual tournament in the world besides March Madness.
And it is hard to win in Germany as well if you're an away squad. Let's go to game number 2, a team that we have talked about quite a bit here on Golden Goal, the one and only AC Milan and Tottenham Spurs. And the Spurs, the gift that keeps on giving. You know,
Yeah.
we quite literally, we both picked City to beat them. And I think you exactly said on the show something like, you know, they'll do this and then they'll drop points to a team that they shouldn't. They
Yeah.
got embarrassed over the weekend.
To Leicester, yes.
So I spot on there. That doesn't exactly count as a bet hit for you, but that's just like this is an unbelievable, uncountable amount of brownie points.
This is Mets bullpen volatile.
Yeah.
Like it's just it's coming and you can't explain it. Maybe we were dumb enough not to put it on Spurs to beat City because of course they would. And then of course they get battered by Leicester City, right? Leicester scores 4 goals on them. City don't score.
It should have been like 6 or 7, honestly.
It's insane. And Conte came back for that one, and I think that's a guy we have to talk about here.
Well,
Stefano Pioli has only beaten him once. We know.
If you don't like starting goalies playing, this may be a game for you as well.
Well, yeah, and they're both French starters. The number 1 and number 2 for the French national team are not in the first leg at least. Mike Maignan might be back for the second, so we'll see with that. But we don't know. His injury is so mysterious. It's Jed Lowry levels of insane. Like you don't know where he is. It's I can't repeat on the air of what the rumors are as to why he's not, but we'll discuss this off the air. Anyways, Benacer is out for Milan. That's their best midfielder. Rodrigo Bentancur is out for Spurs. He has a torn ACL, so he's out both legs. Unfortunately for him, he was doing well. Both starting goalkeepers are out. As we mentioned, we probably won't see Maignan back till the second leg. Antonio Conte absolutely owns Stefano Pioli. Conte never made it past this round in the Champions League of any team that he's managed. He's been very far. Stefano Pioli has never been this far in the Champions League. Milan have not been to the knockout stages since they got eliminated to Atletico Madrid about a decade ago. So there's really not too much to go off of. For me, this is the exploitation of Milan's right side as opposed to the left side of Spurs. Son, not the greatest season in the world, but him and Ivan Perisic, we've seen Perisic play for Inter, dominate Milan, playing on that left side and wreaking havoc. Alexis Saelemaekers, who is so good as a right wing back, will not be starting in this one more than likely. They have Davide Calabria back out there, who is too slow for this level. I think he's going to get abused with this. If you want to look at a Son anytime goal scorer alongside this, and again, the differences with Milan, what they've been doing recently as well, is they switch formations. It's a lot more defensive than what we've seen in the past. It's 3 back with 5 players in the midfield that have wingbacks and Hernandez, and we'll see Calabria. So it's a lot more defensive. It's not going to be as open when they were losing in those games earlier against Lazio and Sassuolo. The important thing to note here is that I think this is one of those matches that Spurs step up in. I think they're also capable of conceding as well. So both teams to score is another one to look at. Over 2.5 is right around even money right now. I do like over in this just because I think Milan need to put themselves in a position to get a strong result here. Do they have the players for it? I'm not really sure. We know how good English sides have been against Milan as well. It's just been tough sledding for them in any competition. They haven't done it in a very long time. I think it might have been Spurs a very long time ago, if not group stage for Milan. So we're talking over a decade now. This is how poorly they do. Again, history matters here. And listen, this is my squad, so you know I'm not being biased. And again, I guess you could kind of look towards the side of Spurs saying they're away in this one. They're minus 144 to advance to the next round. Again, you want to do something like that. I've seen this number actually fluctuate a little bit. It's gone to minus 175. It's been at minus 144. It's back down at minus 144. That's due to some of the injuries that we've seen. It's all about, I guess, who you have faith in to like for Spurs to be Spurs or Milan to finally get over this hump. And that's the really hard thing here because something's got to give. It's that type of expression here. Does Antonio Conte finally exercise his demons, or does it Pioli the other way around? Because he's dead man walking almost. Like if he has a really bad result here and they lose or drop points in another league match, you could see him gone. It's not out of the question. There's just and the same could go for Conte. You never know with Daniel Levy and him. It's insanely volatile. It's crazy. The atmosphere is going to be insane. I know I'm being biased in that sense, but again, you'll see a lot of goals here. It's going to be entertaining. We don't have top goalkeepers, and there's a lot of holes in the midfield as well.
Yeah, if I'm going any direction here, I'm going a combo of both teams to score and a draw. Honestly, I think that you think a team again that's as volatile as Tottenham is, like the emotions of just getting embarrassed over the weekend. That's why I'm not diving into this one as much as the other two, honestly, because I know we talked about a lot of question marks in the PSG one,
Yeah.
but for Tottenham, you can see this going both ways. You can see a big rebound here against a Milan team that just has not been good this season. They have been really bad, and they've conceded goals like it is quite literally their job. So you can see a couple of Spurs goals coming in here, but I just think the
Yeah.
emotions of just getting throttled over the weekend kind of lends itself to a draw here. If you, again, want to play it a little safer,
Yeah.
go a double chance here. You go Tottenham and the draw, you get it at minus 180 is your best number. I think at this point I kind of roll the dice a little bit there. You can go both teams to score and draw, or if you again want to play a little safer, you go with that double chance and both
Mm-hmm.
teams to score. But the draw is at plus 230. I think if I had to pick a straight result for this match, I'd go with the draw.
Yeah, man, I'll take that. I'll take that one. It's going to be difficult to go back to England, but yeah, I mean, listen, it's some people might just look at the numbers when they're hearing what we're saying with the conceding. It's a different formation to just not try and concede. They're trying to play a counter-attacking system and starting Giroud up top. It's just you can't pull that off. He's not fast enough. He can't even do it in a pressing system to run in behind a defense. That's where you risk that. And again, when defenses only have to prepare for one player, it makes it harder. And again, um, we're talking about one goal conceded in 180 minutes in the league. That's deceptive. Okay. It's very deceptive for what Milan has been defending like. All right. They're surrendering chances. They still have a poor goalkeeper. Those stats do not lie to you when it was still 11 goals conceded on 13 shots. That matters. He's made a couple of decent saves, but how poorly they are aerially, Harry Kane's great in. Set pieces, something Spurs pretty good in as well. I think that's where they have those success. And again, we're just and Tomori coming back in. How sharp is he? We knew he wasn't really truthfully cut out for the Premier League, so we'll see how he plays at this level. There's just the question marks are right on your end. I just think there's way more on one side, and that'll hurt them. I do like the draw though, because again, it's still not an easy place to go in and win.
Mm.
We'll say that much, especially for a side like Spurs. So we'll see what happens, man. I mean, they got Conte back and they get battered, so is very interesting.
Again, just the gift that keeps on giving. We're going to move to game number 3. It's going to be the last game we cover here out of the 4 we have. We have Dortmund and Chelsea. This is a Dortmund squad. They have not beaten an English side in their last 10 opportunities. They have not beaten an English squad in the Champions League since March of 2016. That is a long time to not beat one. However, this is a bad Chelsea team, and this is a Dortmund team that has found their footing and has been a lot more in form. That being said, do you side with the Germans here?
This one is definitely the toughest for me out of all these. It's funny because we know if there's one club you can't take league form into account of, it's Chelsea, because both times that they've won the Champions League, granted under Roman Abramovich, it was a replacement of a manager in the middle of the season. Check. It's a very poor and underperforming side within the league. Check. They were pretty good in the group stage, but nothing that says we're one of the favorites for this competition. Check. So everybody's doing that, right? And if you watch the NFL and people, love the NFL and their angle on the New York Giants in this postseason, right? I'm a Jets fan, just to preface on. I always found this hilarious that, the Giants won their opening playoff game. The last 3 times they did that, they went to the Super Bowl. Yeah, it ain't like that, okay? We were talking about history before. These are totally different circumstances. We're talking about signings made largely in January that haven't had time to assimilate within the squad. You're asking Graham Potter, someone, the replacement has been struggling, okay? When there were replacements for other managers at that time, when it's Di Matteo or Thomas Tuchel, they were playing well. They were clearly playing better, and they had more proven talent, okay? There was Frank Lampard. There was John Terry. We're also seeing how great some of the other players were at the time, like Antonio Rudiger and Christensen in defense. They've replaced seemingly everybody, and Mendy was on a heater like an NHL goaltender in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Sorry about that. Where you just ride out a hot hand in Mendy, and we're not really seeing that happen right now with Chelsea. They're just disastrous. I hate betting on them. I don't touch them in the Prem anymore. We said that, but for some reason, I'm just saying they got to get a goal somehow. And I think scoring exactly one was around plus 230 at the point in which I was looking at it. I was like, I guess I have to rock with that because the under is likely. But again, we're in Germany. Dortmund keep matches open, but Chelsea can't finish. So I was just kind of trying to stay away from it because that could go either way, honestly. We would sit here saying, oh, well, of course Chelsea in the under 2.5 is going to hit because they can't finish. And then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, well, Chelsea just needed one opportunity and somehow they put it in the back of the net and Dortmund takes care of their business and they get 2 goals themselves. And then all of a sudden you're over 2.5. But again, there's just something about this that they're on 2 different directions, but we've seen so many times and so many examples of this not mattering. So for me, it's really, I just like Chelsea to score exactly 1 goal and nothing else.
For me.
I mean, it's just, yeah, basically it's just the bare minimum. You get a chance, whatever, put it in. I just can't trust them. And I also just don't trust Dortmund at this level. And you have history backing it up as well. They've improved so much, but they were in Europa League last year, getting knocked out to Rangers. This is a big leap. Let's see how they do it. I just don't want to put any money on that happening.
Yeah, and I apologize in advance for this if I saw this wrong. But I could have swore I saw on Bet365, the book I saw it on, Dortmund to advance at plus 110. And I know when you're taking a team to advance at that point, you're hoping for a little bit more. But I mean, again, if I have to, and it's a low bar because of how Chelsea has played, and you detailed, all the concerns on the Dortmund side. I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
It's not a team like Bayern that you have history to back up and trust. I still kind of like plus 110 to advance over a team that just I've gotten burned by in Chelsea, and I don't trust, like you said. If I'm going for something for this game, again, I don't trust this game to stay under 2.5. I don't trust Dortmund to actually get it done. So I'm just going with both teams to score. Minus 132. I'm not playing around with this.
No.
Like you mentioned, like I don't trust Dortmund. I don't trust Chelsea. I wish I didn't have to bet on this game, but here we are. Both teams will score minus 132. I'm leaving that.
And that one's actually really not bad. And for my piece for The Athletic, I was basically looking at some of these futures to advance. Dortmund's like one of those sides to look at, and you're like, okay, plus 110. It looks better because Chelsea is so weird. I think that's the bet. Like, Chelsea shouldn't be that heavily favored for what we've seen. I think this is more so a lack of trust in the return leg being at Stamford Bridge, which would obviously favor Chelsea. I see where that's coming from. Again, I would think Dortmund need a really strong performance at home. And again, and I, to go off of like Chelsea's group, I thought it was kind of disappointing as well. Milan, we were awful. It's not like Chelsea was anything incredible as well. Kudos to them. They 100% deserve to win both legs. But it's not like we saw something here that's like, oh yeah, slam dunk, I'm hitting the button on them to advance for Dortmund. I just, you're right in that. It's just really, it's really strange for a team like that. I think this is also where the public comes into play here. I think a lot of money's going to be on Chelsea. I know Dortmund's kind of like that sexy type of hipster pick that everybody loves because they've had big names.
Has been, right?
And they're just a revolving door of talent. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's the way the modern game is these days. It's how ownership is in Germany. But do you really want to bet on that? That's why it's just so weird to me. And this tie is just, I just hope to see Chelsea finish goals. because if they do, then that just means we're getting a ton of them.
Hmm.
Because I know Dortmund will at least create. With Chelsea, it's kind of like, I don't know, does like Mudryk actually ball out in this? Like, what's going to happen? So it's just way too crazy in that sense.
Yeah, yeah. It's just again, we have 3 games we covered, and there were very few spots that we did not have question marks for. There is a fourth game. It's Bruges and Benfica. We're not covering it in depth here. Do you have any just pointers, tips, things you are leading in that game, or is it just this is just like a stay away? Because
It's
it's tough
go
to
ahead.
handicap this one. I mean, it wasn't
It's
pretty.
it's weird. Again, minus 400 for Benfica to advance. Yeah, I do think they will. Bruges is the absolute surprise team in this tournament, and no one had them advancing. They lose one of their top young players in De Ketelaere, and they advanced to the knockout stages. They had a great defense. Benfica couldn't stop scoring goals. Like, how do those two line up? And with that and the minus 400 number, it was kind of like, I don't, in the Enzo sale, it's kind of like, I don't know. I don't kind of want to touch this. This is kind of strange for me. So that's why I stayed away from that. I would just say low scoring on the Brugge side, because I think that's just something you'll see. And then again, Benfica, I mean, listen, man, if you want to parlay them advancing to the next round, if you like Dortmund at plus 110, if you even love Spurs minus 144 as well, there's some numbers that you could parlay that with if you feel very safe in that. For me, I don't feel minus 400 safe. I feel minus 200 at best, just because great defense is something you have to respect. And when you lose a player like Enzo in the middle of the season, I think that kind of warrants, some cause for concern.
I've heard enough. There's a reason we don't have an official graphic up, and we're not giving you official picks because hey, if you're not confident enough in it, no reason to act like you are. Honestly, we have 4 more games next week as well that we will cover. But until then, Martino, always a pleasure having you on. Make sure you're looking out, like he said, for his article for the Athletic, detailing some futures to look at. And as always, Martino, I'll talk to you next week with a bunch of green next to our name.
But I hope so. Probably not the second game, but I hope so.
That's the spirit.